What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Class Action Live. It's a stream where we're finally getting to go live. We went live only once before. It was such a success that we had to do it again. I'm your boy. It's me. It is PLD.
Now, I'm Richard Eric Jarvie. Welcome to Class Action. You said like in any other episode. It's not another episode of Class Action. I think this is the special episode that we've ever done.
Yes, I agree. At this point, definitely. We've done a couple of rankings episodes. We've had some guests on, but today we have some pretty important, fun guests. We decided to do these rankings. We did Star Wars before at first. We're big fans of Star Wars. We did do a ranking episode with PJ Campbell and Rachel Silvestrini where we did the View Askew universe, which was nice as well.
That's the Corgi episode.
What was that? Oh, the Corgi, yes, also known as the Corgi episode. Every Corgi possible appeared on screen at that point. It did boost our ratings. I think the Corgi percentage at least boosted up about 60%, I think. So anytime a Corgi is in the area, we're going to put it on screen. That's just how it goes. But speaking of puppies, we do have some other puppy aficionados as well on this chat, this screen today. We decided to do for our third ranking after Star Wars and View Askew, we decided we're going to do one of my favorite heroes of all time, Superman. Love me some Superman. And Jarvie, we've talked about this. We've watched Man of Steel together and watched Batman versus Superman versus stuff. We said, we want to watch it all. And we want to rank every single one of them. So we started talking. I said, Jarvie, who could we bring on? Who could we bring on as guests?
Well, there was only one person that you turn to when you're talking Superman.
And that's Matt Kearns. Action Army's Matt Kearns, ladies and gentlemen. He's a good friend of ours. Love Matt Kearns. How are you doing, Matty?
I'm doing fantastic. To let everyone know, it is currently, to just prove to Jarvie's point, it is currently 1 a.m. my time, Eastern Standard Time. I have work in a couple of hours, and yet I'm here because that's how much I love the Man of Steel.
That's right. Well, we decided we couldn't just have Matt Kearns on. As big of a guest as he is, as important as he is, we decided there's one person.
I don't pull numbers, guys. I do pull on Picture.
One person in our space who I wanted to get on for that, and he is my friend that we worked with. You know him. You know him well. You love him. Mark Yodi Reilly. There he is, and he is drinking some wine. How are you, Mark?
Oh, my God. Oh, hello. Oh, hello, everybody. Oh, Class Action.
Class
Matt
Action.
Kearns, Jarvie, PLD. This is, you guys are leading into it right now. This is one of my things I was looking forward to. It's a Sunday. We got to talk sorry, did I say Star Wars?
You did?
I meant Superman.
We'll talk Star Wars a different time. I wouldn't mind having to come back and talk Star Wars, but today we
got to talk Superman, man.
You're ready.
Thank you for having me here. This is great. I love being here and being with you guys who are like quite much the best out there right now. Class Action. Thank you for having me right now.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you. Of course, we should talk a little bit, really briefly, talk about our backgrounds on Superman. Obviously, the best news about this podcast for this particular show is we know Mark loves Superman. I'm doing it too now, Mark. You got
I know. That was my joke. I wanted everybody to look at Reilly's Cantina every Monday at 6 p.m. PST. No, but anyways, Superman. We're talking about Superman.
There is a connection, though. ILM did do the effects for the first two Superman films, and they did Star Wars, so there's a connection, so it's fine.
We got the connection
Williams.
now.
John Williams.
that as well.
John Williams, big one.
That probably should have been my first connection, but
You buried the lead. Currency. But the most interesting part of this is my brother over here, Richard Eric Jarvie. We had talked about, like I said, we mentioned Man of Steel, we mentioned BVS, but Jarvie, never before had you seen the classic Christopher Reeve Superman films.
Never had I seen them. I had an issue. It felt like they were. I never like Star Wars. I grew up with Star Wars. I never
can't.
Man movies, and as
I
time
haven't watched them. I just can't right now.
yeah.
It's closed.
I got it. Me too.
It felt like they were silly, dumb movies that have aged poorly. That was my preconception of it all.
But now we'll find out what your real conception is after I said you're going to watch this. You're going to watch Superman 1. You're going to watch Superman 2. You're going to watch Superman 3. You're even going to watch Supergirl and Superman 4.
And I'll promise I'll be 100% honest. Like Paul said, if you hate the movies, lie for Yodi.
I didn't have a heart attack. I didn't want to have a heart attack.
Paul, I love you. I will be honest. I will be brutal if I don't like them. I'll be honest. The topic deserves honesty.
That is true.
Okay.
It's
Well, to
very true.
quote TC Legend, I'm quietly judging you.
Fair enough.
Who am I kidding? I'm going to loudly judge you.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to get into our rankings. We'll talk about what we feel about the films as we go. We do have streamlabs.com/action. Let me break that up so I know what's here. Streamlabs.com/action industries. And you can also throw some super chats in there and to ask us some questions. I'll take them as I go along. But without further ado, we're going to get right into it. How we're going to do this is I'm going to list up the 9th place movie. I should say, actually, we're ranking 9 movies. We decided the Superman franchise we're going to have is Superman 1 through 4, Supergirl, Superman Returns, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and we included Justice League in there.
Yes.
Because we had to. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of the Superman story in that film.
Paul, you didn't want to talk about Justice League at first.
It's not that I didn't want to. I questioned whether we should because it was a team movie.
Okay.
But it's a part of the unofficial Superman trilogy.
And that's what we all decided. I mean, that's where I was definitely happy when it happened. I actually talked to Mark beforehand. I was like, Mark, should we do this? Should we do Supergirl? He's like, let's do them all, right?
Yeah, we have to do them all. And Justice League being, the place that has the best Superman mustache, it has to be included. Because Superman doesn't have a mustache in most movies. But anyways, besides the point.
It is a super mustache. Let's put it that way.
It's a super mustache. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to rank all 9 movies. I'm going to say 9th place. We're each going to give our rankings, and we'll punt if we need to go higher on things. We'll go that route. And I'm going to assign point systems to it. And at the end, I'll list out our group collaborative listing from 9 to 1. But before we go in there, I just want to talk one brief news item that kind of dropped at least last couple of days. Did we hear that they have put the Supergirl movie on hold because they are looking to do basically a Henry Cavill Superman movie? This is what I've heard. So we might be getting Man of Steel 2, basically.
Are we?
I don't know.
Are we?
They keep teasing it.
The news came out that they were focusing on a Supergirl movie, and now they want to focus on a Superman movie because the Supergirl movie might not be one of the things that people, with the Superman pathos and mythology and all these. I just don't understand where they're going. But, if we're going to take the long way around to get a taco, to finally get a Man of Steel 2 where they go, oh, yeah, Henry Cavill, Man of Steel 2, you can just pick up after the events of Justice League, wherever you want to place it. It's a good move, guys. Come on. Let's get Henry Cavill back. We're all adults here.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to find out more about that. I'm hoping it's true.
I am too.
Fingers crossed. So, all right. Let's just get right into it then, shall we?
Let's
Our number 9 film, ranking number 9. Since I'm up top, I'll go first. This is right here where I will put Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Punt. Well,
you're punting.
It's not much high. We didn't really explain it. I have it. Should I spoil where it is? Because it's not super high.
Go ahead.
I have it at 8. I have it at 8.
Then we can talk then. All right, that's fine. Jarvie, what about you? Do you have it?
Number
not 8 or 9? I didn't hear you. Sorry.
8.
Number 8. Number 8 for you. Okay. All right. And Mark, where did you have it?
And this is Justice League, right? Wait, what did you say?
Superman 4.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Superman 4. I would put that actually. Let me look at my notes here.
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll punt.
You're gonna punt.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we'll wait on that then. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So then let's get into your number 9 then, we should say. Since what did you have for number 9?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well, Justice League.
Justice League is your worst.
That's a
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Justice
all
League is absolutely the worst Superman movie out there.
Okay. Well, then we're going to punt on that for a little bit, and we'll come back to it then. The rest of us will
Okay.
talk Superman 4. Superman 4, I will start and say that I loved the ambition behind it. I think after Richard Lester kind of had his 30% of Superman 2, and it had his Superman 3, where he basically took Superman in a comedic route. It was a lot of silliness, a lot of slapstick comedy. I mean, you have Richard Pryor in Superman 3, which we're going to get into.
Yeah.
It was a different take that I wasn't as big a fan of. But there's a reason why I'll get into the Superman 3 later on, why it's not number 9. Superman 4 tried to take it back at least into a more heroic, noble nature. And I actually liked the beginning of it. When Clark is on the farm discussing how he wants to sell it to a real farmer, not to the developers. And it was definitely a passion project for Christopher Reeve. He mentioned at one point that he wanted Superman to deal with these worldly tactics, these nuclear missiles and things like that. That's what Superman should be doing. So that I hate trashing it and putting it number 9 because Christopher Reeve absolutely loved what he was doing and wanted to do with it.
Mhm.
But come on. Let's be honest though. It was fine up until. Oh, first of all, I gotta say, when Nuclear Man came in, it all went downhill really quickly. I mean, really quickly. Nuclear Man with Gene Hackman's voice was probably the worst supervillain in. I would almost say almost ever. There's not much lower I can go than Superman villains than Nuclear Man.
Until Steppenwolf.
You're not far off. That's
Oh, I'm sorry. We're still on Superman 4.
We are on
Is that what we're
Superman 4.
right now? Okay.
please
Yeah.
do.
Listen, it's not a great movie, believe me. But there is. Sorry, I don't want to take over the conversation. So
Red Hat.
please.
Go ahead, Mark. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it. Go ahead.
No. If we're talking about positives, I can go to Superman 4, but I would like to continue on the negatives for a second.
Then I will throw one more negative in before I let Richard and Matt give their piece. They doubled down on the memory wipe kiss.
Yeah.
The memory wipe. And that was one of the stupidest things I've ever had in Superman. And that was in a better movie.
Right.
They actually take it away. Lois starts remembering. You're like, okay, they're undoing that. I kind of like that they're undoing that for 10 seconds, and he does it again.
Right.
It just seemed like what are you doing? It really just blew my mind. A lot of the stupid things about that.
They fell back on a good story trope that was set up in the franchise earlier.
Yes,
so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they tried to copy the Superman Lois flying bit. It was all
They didn't try. They legitimately copied it.
almost beat for beat, pretty much. All that was missing was the little song and her singing, "Can you read my mind?"
Right. It's one of those movies. But if we're talking about like the worst of the worst, there is a shining beacon in the middle of that movie, which is when Clark is on his double date with Lois and what's her butt from I can't remember her name, but he is he's trying to work both angles, and it's one of the most redeeming qualities from that movie, which I still think elevates it higher than the worst Superman movie, which is don't get me wrong, the hottest take on the internet today.
That definitely is.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. You know what? I actually agree with that. I actually do like that. That scene is pretty funny, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Jarvie, I got to know. Well, let's go Kearns first. I want to know because I feel like Jarvie. I got to hear your opinion last of this. Kearns, go ahead. What do you on Superman 4?
I think positives. We still get Christopher Reeve, who is still great in the role. I kind of feel bad for him because the way they got him to do this film was he wanted to tell this story about Superman, as you said, Paul, sort of like stopping nuclear weapons, and they gave him like half of it, and then he read the script, and he was like, what is this nuclear man? Like, what? And Gene Hackman just gets pulled back into this. They just waved a check in front of his face. It's just like, it's Superman 4 is like a really bad high school reunion to where you go back and you see all the people who were cool in high school and you realize, wow, you guys just suck and you're trying to do what you did before, but you're just failing at it. Just stop, please.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one positive about Superman 4, they did stop and there was not a 5. They just let it die.
It's true.
Positive
So
about.
I'll say that.
All right, Richard, go ahead with what you were saying.
The best thing about Superman 4, it's short. Short.
You're
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And I'll give you another one. This is the best Christopher Reeve that we've seen because he was aged just right. I loved it. And like in Superman 1 to 3, he's pretty young. He feels like a young man. In number 4, he's matured. He looks more manly. His jaw has gotten bigger. I kind of like that he's, aging out a little. Not aging out, but he looks, I don't know, manlier and sort of more suited for the role. So
right.
And also, I gotta say, Christopher Reeve does. I don't know where I would rank him in, like if I ranked all these Supermen, but he's Clark versus he's Superman is the biggest he's Clark from his Superman, which I love. I love that about it. He's Clark, he's so goofy, like swell. Oh golly! And when he's Superman, he's like an entirely different person. When we talk about Brandon Routh and Henry Cavill, they kind of feel like they're doing the same thing when they're Clark Kent or Superman.
You can actually believe when it's Christopher Reeve. You can actually believe the dumbness of the fact that glasses and a suit can make you believe that it's not the same guy. Because of the differences of the physicality and everything else. I mean, there's a couple of times during all these movies, it seems like every time he has those moments where he's got the glasses, he takes them off and he just stands up and gets to that posture, and you're just like,
well, because it was more than just the glasses, whereas Ralph and Cavill, it's just the glasses. Whereas with him, his body language changes. Even I love the note that they did to where Superman parts his hair, I believe, to the right, and Clark does it to the left. So even just those little notes of things they did, which is why it makes sense. Whereas in the comics, it's just like, all right.
Fair enough.
Alan Harper making an appearance in this.
What was that?
Alan Harper.
Alan Harper made an appearance?
John Cryer.
Yeah, John Cryer.
That's right.
Oh, John Cryer as
nephew.
Lenny.
And John Cryer as Lenny. Yeah, it's true. It's very true. The
Lenny.
Future Lex Luthor now. That was a fun aspect. I did like John
There's
Cryer
some great moments in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Gene Hackman, Lenny. Oh, which is, and Lenny's right there. And, the double date I mentioned. There's some moments.
There it is.
Not a good movie.
Not a good movie.
But it's a movie.
But
moments.
And I will say Gene Hackman, I love Gene Hackman no matter what he does almost. So he's always pretty good.
Correct. He came back after part 3, which is surprising.
Yeah. Well,
guys
weren't involved anymore. I think that was the issue that the producers
could have been. Correct.
Yeah. Christopher Reeve got him to come back.
Yeah.
After they promised him a completely different script.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I talk about this movie, I just want to cry for Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
That's what I brought up.
This was his big movie that he really had something to say with Quest for Peace.
Yep.
And they gave him the first third.
Yeah.
And the first third was a good part of it. That's exactly
it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on then. I guess to number 8.
I think I'm lagging a bit on my connection.
You're lagging a little bit. You need to reset?
I think I'm good, right? I wanted to ask, what's the deal with everyone trying to speak French in this?
That's true. It was weird. Oh, now you are lagging there, Jarvis, a little bit, I think. You want to try to reset? Okay, why don't you go reset? We'll talk about it. Well, while Eric Jarvie is resetting, he had some tech issues. He's actually moved offices where he actually does his
nice. Okay.
So it's been a little struggle the last couple of weeks, but he's getting set up. So I'm going to go into my number 8. Then I'll go and I'll say that this is where I slot Supergirl.
Supergirl. Okay, I like that.
I can't put it any higher because
why would you? But that's why we're talking about it.
Right, exactly. But the reason why I put it above Superman 4 is that there's just a complete abandonment. Like it's just they don't give a about being serious at all. There's no attempt to to make any logic work. It's like they don't like they know what they're gonna go for. Like, we're just gonna have fun. It's like almost a kid's adventure movie that you don't really care about how making logic works. You just see crazy ass things going on, and you're like, okay.
Okay.
I did love the fact Supergirl had oh god, I'm blanking on her name. The main villain, the witch there. God, I can't remember her name now.
Oh yeah. This is your Schmodown question waiting to happen. I can't remember. And guess what? Her name is what's her butt? With the red hair. Yeah.
But she was so over the top that I actually enjoyed it partially.
Mhm.
But I feel like I needed a lot of I need to be really high to watch this movie and really love it. But you got Pierre O'Toole. You got Lois's Lane's sister, the same girl from Grease 2.
Mhm.
And those were definitely some positives about it. But I couldn't possibly any way, shape, or form rank it any higher. It's just not that great, to be honest with you.
All right.
Kearns, what do you think about it, bub?
Well, that's my number 9 because
That
I
was your number
had
9.
Quest for Peace
Okay.
at 8.
That makes
I can't possibly look. Quest for Peace has Christopher Reeve at least. Like at least it's got Christopher Reeve. This movie just like sucks. Like it's just I don't care. Like I'll give it to the actress's name who plays Supergirl.
Helen Slater.
Helen Slater. She did the best she could possibly do. I like watching Ellis from Die Hard not be shot by Hans Gruber after doing cocaine. That's great. And his whole thing, like I love, but it's just so bad. And it's just like you could just so clearly see the writers go back to that first movie and go, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So we need to get an unknown because that worked for Christopher Reeve. Okay, now we need to get a well-known Oscar caliber actor to play the mentor.
Mhm.
All right. So let's
Mhm.
get Peter O'Toole in there.
It's
And
getting
it's
better.
like the same
It's getting
things will
better.
work. And then the movie happened and it I think I'll say what I normally say on Take 3 when I talk about movies like this. Look, there were directors who directed this and actors, they read a script. And this was released into a theater and people paid money. And look, I wish I was born so I could be a teenager in the 80s. And then I remember movies like this came out in the 80s and I'm happy I was born in the late 90s.
Faye Dunaway.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Faye Dunaway.
As I said to Paul when he was asking me if we should even rank this movie, let's just pretend this didn't exist.
You know what? I have to object. Christopher Reeve and Supergirl. He's on a poster on the wall. But that's about
That's like saying Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill are in this video.
close enough. All right, I gotta
that.
hear it. I gotta hear it, Mark. Go ahead, Mark. Tell me about Supergirl for you.
Well, I'm punting with Supergirl.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I'd love to hear that. Actually, I really do.
Oh yeah. I got a hot take.
Okay.
Supergirl is a damn fine super man girl movie that is much better than some of the new DCEU movies coming out today, as well as some of the old movies of yore in our Superman universe. Supergirl it might be a little bit of nostalgia for me, but I remember watching that movie and it held up at the time to a Superman movie like a Superman or a Superman 2 for me, this youngin' here. Peter O'Toole, I mean, come on, Peter O'Toole is doing some things there that not a lot of people should be doing in movies, which is signing on for a Supergirl movie. But that's beside the point here. Faye Dunaway needs to be mentioned here as the villain of this movie. It's incredible. It's one of those movies that, Jimmy Olsen is in it. And I put this movie a lot higher than you should. And I know a lot of people are going to be there going like, wait a minute, this movie is like really, really bad. But I would argue that this movie deserves a place higher than other movies we're going to talk about, like your Justice League. Yeah, I said it. And Superman 4.
Okay. All right. I get that. It is a cult classic, as Franco says.
It's a little bit of a cult classic. I think there's a group next to the Colts that are like in a separate room that are like all there drinking coffee and they have donuts and they talk about Supergirl. But the cult classics are over there actually having conversations. But, we're around there.
Talk about crying for Christopher Reeve about Superman 4. I feel so bad for Peter O'Toole. Can you imagine him sitting in the pitch room to her like,
right.
You're going to be like Brando was in the original. And then
I think that was the pitch.
His first day on set in that outfit, reading those lines, having to literally play with a stick and ball.
Yeah.
He probably was just like, I was in Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, dude.
Now I'm here.
It's a great reference to make that I think the producers were like, you're the Brando of this one. And I think that like we see now with certain studio movies that are going to branch out and, I think that was one of their choices. Let's make Supergirl because Superman was so popular.
Right.
Let's get Peter O'Toole in here like the Brando. There was a lot other stuff. There was a theme park involved. I don't know. It was really.
They tried to recreate the Superman Lois flying scene, except it fails because she's literally holding a giant bumper car with him in it.
Can we mention the scene where the Hans or Bubby from Die Hard. Alice is walking around the streets, wandering up the love potion, gets picked up by the construction vehicle, and you sit there and Supergirl watches this going on for like 10 minutes before she doesn't have to do anything. And then keep watching you see going,
yeah.
All this chaos is going around, and finally the time is like, oh yeah, I should go do something.
They also just gave up halfway on this movie, and they just had the monster be invisible because they did not want to be bothered paying for special effects for a monster. So they're like, it's invisible. That's it.
This is a movie that really relied on the branding of Superman at the time. And I think if we were in today's society on the DCEU over at Warner Brothers that you mentioned, PLD, the news of Supergirl shifting to Superman, it'd be a different kind of world that we're living in. But this was like trying to capitalize at the time of the Superman. The posters there, Jimmy Olsen is coming in, but yeah, it hovered around magic, which was weird. Yeah. And then there was like a theme park, and there was like, I don't remember a lot about it. I do remember though, it's better than Justice League.
Okay.
Sorry, hot take. Anyway,
fair enough. All right, yeah, they did lean more on Jimmy. That's true. Jimmy Olsen was like the big draw, I think, for the movie at this point.
Oh yeah.
Guys, look, Dave McFly, he had some stuff he had to do in between films.
Right.
All right, looks like Jarvis having some more tech issues, trying to get some connections, so we'll get him back in as soon as we can. We'll get his take on that when we get him in. So why don't we move on to our number 7 then? The number 7 list that I had at least, and then we'll see where we are with this. 7 is where I put Superman 3.
Okay, light pun, technically.
I'm close.
Okay, light putt. Okay, I will say that I liked Superman 3 a lot more when I was young. I fully admit it's a kids' fun adventure movie. It didn't age very well because Richard Lester's humor did not age very well for me.
No,
that whole opening sequence when they got the guy, like the blind guy, walking on his head, and
it
just did not work at all for me. You have a Lex Luthor wannabe villain. Instead of going to the Superman's rogue gallery, you have this billionaire guy. None of that actually work for me. Richard Pryor in the movie does not work for me because of the movie. Just because of the film itself. He's fine. I love Richard Pryor, but not in the Superman movie. He was funny. I actually laughed quite a few times. It just didn't seem to fit. But I will say that my favorite part of Superman 3, why it's a notch above the other two for me, is that one of my favorite scenes of all Superman is the junkyard sequence.
Yeah.
Superman versus Clark.
Yeah. It's good.
And then Clark wins, and he rips off the thing like old school. You hear that John Williams score. I think I'm a sucker for John Williams. I think that might be what it is. Once that score hits, I'm back in love with the movie for at least the next 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
So, but at the end of the day, compared to everything else, it's still it's too jokey. It's too campy. It's too over the top. It goes a little bit too far for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I can get behind that.
Okay. What do you think, Kearns? Are you punting on this one? Or are you
have it at 6.
have it at 6? Okay, you can talk about that. I think that's good.
Yeah, the Richard Pryor stuff is fine. I think if you're a fan of his comedy, he was way past my time, and I wasn't really brought up on him like I was like a George Carlin, but I still find him funny enough. And look, Superman, guys, they're called comic book movies. There's some really stupid comedy in the 80-year history of Superman. But I think for me, the reason why I have this above a movie that I have at 7 that might shock some people, it's the dark Superman story. I just think, and then it culminates in the junkyard scene. I think the great thing is it's such a good understanding of show don't tell. Like you get to see the suit gets progressively darker as Clark gets darker, and then instead of having, like, not to harp on the man because I love him, but like a Kevin Smith movie where he would have a giant monologue about how he's feeling, instead of talking about how he feels like there's a conflict between him, you literally have his good side and his bad side have a conflict.
Right.
And it's great. And it ends with one of the greatest shots of Superman that's so good people think it's from the first movie, which is, I have the old Entertainment Earth here, which is, where is it? Right there. Everyone thinks that's from the original. That's from Superman 3. That classic shot of him, and it's in the movie after everything he's gone through, and that's when he comes back and he goes and he beats the villains. Is there stupid stuff in there? Yes, but I think that whole thing is so good, and Christopher Reeve plays it so well, and it takes advantage of the fact that it's a comic book movie to tell a really compelling story. So that's why I have it at 6.
Fair enough. I'll just throw this in there real quick. Larry Lee says Superman is amazing. There is no bad Superman movie. I
love that.
I love that as well because
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Even Superman 4, I enjoyed watching.
Because Supergirl is called Supergirl, not Superman.
Hot take there.
Very true.
All right, Mark. I'm assuming you're punting on this one for a while. Do you want to talk about
punting? I mean, I have it higher on my list than normal. I mean, how would you like me to say this? I love what Kearnsy said about Superman 3. I have a lot more to say on where it's at in my listing, but yeah, I would punt that it's on your end higher than it is on my end.
Okay. All right, well, we'll get back to there.
Great.
All right, that's fine then. Okay. So waiting on Jarvis. Jarvis is having some issues. Unfortunately, very sad because I really wanted to get his take on some of them. He's backstage and now I'm going to try to bring him in. I'm trying to see if I can bring him in again.
No worries.
Let's see if we bring him in. Can we bring you in?
There he is.
Are you there? I still can't hear you, though. I can't hear you, can you?
No. Is his mic on?
He said Superman 3 is the greatest Superman movie of all time.
That's what he said.
Is that what it was? No.
Say Supergirl. All right.
Supergirl movie is the greatest movie of.
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't figure it out.
All right, I'm gonna try again, I guess. All right. Well, and of course, it's a little bit of a disaster for him, unfortunately, but we'll keep moving on as we do. Let's see. So we'll go on to the number. I just did number 7 for me was Superman 3. So we'll go for number 6 for me. This is where I slot Justice League.
Ooh, okay.
So finally,
that's another slight punt for me.
Oh, you will even higher than that.
Yeah, I have it higher than that.
All right, Mark, go off on Justice League as best you can. I want you to go ahead and just slaughter it. Go ahead.
All right. Justice League is number last on my list.
Okay.
Out of all the Superman movies. Now I know there are going to be people out there that'll be like, now how can you put Justice League under Superman 4 or Supergirl or Superman 3 or Superman Returns? Maybe even Batman v Superman. I don't know. It's that Justice League was a movie that rushed everything to get to a release and left out my favorite thing in the world, which is the death of Superman and resurrection. And unfortunately, we do have our jokes and our memes and our gifs of Superman's mustache.
It's a super mustache.
But when you start a movie, Justice League, with a mocap mustache to try to get us into the heart of Superman. We've talked about, Matthew Kearns, you've talked about a Superman movie in Superman 3 that has a little bit more heart to it, about the justification of between going evil and choosing Clark Kent over the power that might be in you, that you could do something. I mean, Superman 3 had more going on in Justice League than, I think any movie going on, even Superman 4. Justice League was a Frankenstein's monster, and if we're talking about Superman movies, Superman was put to the bottom of the list in order to hit a release date, and that's what I unfortunately put Justice League at the very last spot of my list.
I can't argue with you on any of your points, to be completely honest. I think the reason why I bump it up higher for me is, and maybe I shouldn't bump it up higher, but I see the good film that's in there.
Yeah, there's a film in there.
The film in there, I would like to see the Snyder Cut. I do enjoy the characterization. I'm a big Ben Affleck as Batman fan.
Yeah, me too.
So that helped me. I love Henry Cavill as Superman. So I get anything I can get between those two makes me actually happier in a way. It had less goofiness compared to Superman 3, although it was a different kind of goofiness. So I do vacillate between Superman 3 and Justice League being here. This is why I had a hard time. I could come back tomorrow and switch them. No, definitely no problem with that.
And we're fudging it, right? It's right. Justice League. It's DC. It's you got your Batmans and your Wonder Womans and your Cyborgs and your Flashes and you're all the different characters that we have to get to know. And it's unfair to put Justice League here because I think that by design, Superman 3 or 4 or even Supergirl have the name Superman or Supergirl in it. So we're focused on them and you got to worry about heroes, right?
Right.
But I just think that there was an opportunity there that Zack Snyder was already building towards in Justice League that was the death of Superman. And we didn't get that. We got a kind of a washed over, he's back. And we're going to just kind of gloss through a lot of things that are great in source material.
Yeah.
But when you come to Superman 3, at least we're getting to the idea of good versus evil and being good and choosing the moniker of Clark Kent versus all-powerful Superman. And what does that mean? And even Superman 4, where it's for love and dating and there's a more powerful being and balancing between being Clark Kent and being the Superman and taking over the world. There's a lot more themes and more interesting story in Superman 3 and Superman 4. While it sucks, don't get me wrong, both those movies suck. Compared to Justice League, as a Superman movie, Justice League, PU, man. Come on. And just passed over. He just shows up at the end and kicks ass. That's easy to do when you're a writer and you have Superman as your, I don't know, I can just bring Superman in and kill Steppenwolf, which is exactly what happens in Justice League. There's no movie, there's no story, there's no nothing. There's just bring Superman in, get rid of Steppenwolf, and we move on to the next phase of our DCEU. At least Superman 3 and 4 had a little bit more going to it with character.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very fair point. You're actually convincing me almost to bring it down, to be honest with you.
I'll do this all day.
wrong
franchise.
That's the wrong franchise. That's we're not doing. Let's try to bring. I'm going to try to bring Richard Jarvie. He's back. We're trying one more time. See what happens. Can we hear you now?
Yeah.
Richard.
I switched my mics. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I got you.
Right. My connection was fine. My earphones were the faulty thing. So at the moment, I'm using my laptop default microphone. So there could be some humming, but hopefully we can get through this. Sorry for the issues.
That's okay. All right. You know what? Let's.
I want to come back to Supergirl.
Go ahead.
Yeah, do it.
Because I was going to punt big time.
Really?
Supergirl was the most fun experience out of all of these movies that I had. That was camp done in the best way possible. Faye Dunaway is like I can see where Kate Blanchett got her Lady Galadriel from.
Oh, here we go. I love that.
Peter O'Toole was fucking mesmerizing.
Thank you.
The intro of that movie, it's like it looks like Rivendell, which is like amazing artwork, great set design. It starts off sure, and when she goes to
Wow,
school,
that's crazy. I love this.
when,
Let me
when
get
she
some
goes
wine
to
here.
like, and Helen Slater, right? The actress's name.
Yep, Helen Slater.
She's awesome. She's freaking awesome, and the movie is so ridiculous, campy. There's this one moment when I don't know Faye Dunaway's the other lady, I can't remember her character name. She just comes in on a train,
Yeah.
like no exploit, just drive choo choo, like comes into the scene. I'm like, what is this? And I start laughing, and I start having such a good time. The movie was such a blast.
Yes.
Such a blast.
Well, that's it for me. I've done everything I need to do here. Thank
Look,
you.
to quote a famous television series, it takes different strokes to move.
I guess.
Let's leave it at that.
Got a question though.
Yeah.
This is gonna sound weird. What was Zoltar squirting? He was on the weird ones, like want to squirt. Like, there were some really weird moments. The movie was
He
like
was definitely squirting whatever you were smoking when you watched it, Barry.
Could very well be. Maybe
Oh,
that's
God.
right. So,
That means I have to watch the movie again to get that reference. I have no idea.
he's in the Phantom Zone alone, and he's been like drinking there for a while. And when Supergirl comes, he's like, "Want to squirt?" He's like,
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
what
I
is
think that was
happening?
just
It
Peter
was so much
O'Toole.
fun.
Like, I think he was drunk at that point.
Could be.
he's got to be
Went off book.
his own special bred alcohol from the Phantom Zone, basically.
I got to talk about the score a bit as well. It kind of reminded me of a little bit of E.T.
Really?
There was some E.T. vibes in there
Ooh,
with
that's
the music.
Hmm.
That's a good
like
thing.
that.
Okay, all right. So where did you rank Supergirl then, Jerry?
Number 6.
Number 6. Wow.
Number 6.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Superman 3 was my last one because it was like the difference in tone was the biggest after watching Donner Cut and then 3. Like I could feel the difference of quality so much, and it was so long. That's why I ranked Superman 4 higher than 3 because it was
You
shorter.
ranked Supergirl 6, but you ranked Superman 3 lowest because of the dip in quality. Once again, I say, Supergirl didn't dip in quality at all. From
No,
Christopher
because I
Reeve.
watched 3 and I was like, oh my god, that was the worst thing I've seen for a while. And then I watched Supergirl, which was already in that camp zone, but knew exactly what it wanted to do. It was like it fit, it worked. You can do. There's a way to do camp, and they nailed it.
Fair enough. I'm happy you are so happy that you enjoyed that film.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. Batman reference, but I'll take it anyway. Okay, all right.
One quick thing before we move on from Supergirl. It was also kind of ahead of its time, having like a female superhero and the guy being the damsel in distress.
That's very true.
I
Right.
kind of like that. Was like they didn't do that way back then, and that was really cool to see.
I mean, they had the Wonder Woman series.
That's true.
She had a couple TV movies.
Yeah.
But it was like a big movie kind of way, so I kind of appreciated that. It was cool to see.
That's
Jerry,
true.
what did you have for 7?
My number 7 was Justice League. Yes, that was there. And you talked about it. Like there is a movie in there, and I can spot it. Like the moment where Batman is he's fighting a guy on the rooftop. He like grapples him down, pulls him. Like that's all Snyder. You can tell that's all Snyder's vision. The way he creates the shots, it's so beautiful. And I'll just say the Snyder cut is all I want, and then I can appreciate the movie.
And do you want the Snyder?
We all do.
So I'm all caught up now, I think.
Mark's been punting a lot, so we're going to see what's in there. We're going to have to go back to his. I think we rank the DC much higher than he does. I think that's part of the issue.
Did you talk Superman
until we get to
Returns?
certain movies.
What was that?
Until we get to certain movies.
Right. That's true. That's true. Curtis, what was your 7? What was your 7, Curtis?
My 7 was Superman Returns.
Okay, so we haven't gotten that far yet. So, all right, I'll punt a little bit on that one. Actually, you know what? I won't punt on that one. We'll talk about that one because that's actually my number 5, which is Superman Returns.
Superman Returns.
Two.
You're number 5.
5.
Same here.
Okay. Is that your 5? Oh, look at that. Almost across.
And number 5.
All right.
Throwing up the horseman.
No horseman here. Just Mark. Mark's okay. You can't do it though, Derry. There he is. There he is. I'll never throw up the horse, but I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, Superman Returns. The only reason it's not higher is because I don't think it knew exactly what type of movie it wanted to be necessarily. Its nostalgia was both its blessing and its curse. What I'd say. Its blessing is that all of a sudden you have the John Williams score coming back.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Which was just right in the theater. I sat down the first time since '87. I'm like, this is what I want to see. Give me that score. They lean into it. They had Brandon Routh placing Christopher Reeve, and that's the first problem to me.
Same here. Yep.
He's just not as good as Christopher Reeve. And the thing is not. But the problem with it is he's not trying to make it his own. It's basically Brandon Routh trying to play Christopher Reeve's Superman.
Yeah,
he does a lot better in Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Absolutely, I agree with that from the TV shows. But that was just my main problem. And we can talk about. I mean, obviously, I don't want to get into anything with the singer and the spacey stuff. I mean, outside of stuff. We're talking about the film only. I'm not going to bring into that.
Yeah.
We
have to.
But Spacey did play a good Lex Luthor.
I agree.
More interesting, but he's not as good as Hackman. I still felt he was trying to play.
I would rank Spacey higher than Hackman, honestly. For me, yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'll give you a Supergirl love in that. But you just stop, Jarvie.
I don't know. I'm so used to seeing Hackman as like the hard ass like Crimson Tide kind of a character, and seeing him so goofy and campy, it just felt wrong for me. I don't know.
Okay.
Tim Franco says best. That's one thing I was going to bring up. His scheme in the movie just didn't fit for me. I didn't really care enough about it. Like the whole.
It's just one beachfront property.
It was them trying to just. They were like, well, in the first movie, Lex had a real clear scheme, so let's do that again, guys.
Again, nostalgia being. Go ahead, sorry, Mark.
It's the scheme from '78 with more effects and more money.
Exactly my point.
That was the problem. It was a little bit of a repeat. It was a little bit of the same kind of things that we were dealing with, and I know that. Singer wanted to go into a little bit more deeper pathos with Superman there, but I think it was lost on a little bit more reliance on, and even then, back then, we heard from audiences there was not a lot of Superman stuff. We got a lot of good Superman action with the effects at that time, but there was something disconnected from it that didn't drive it home. That I thought it was a little bit too reliant on the 78 and the Christopher Reeve and the Donner version, not even Lester half Donner version, Donner cut. We could get into that a little bit with Richard Donner's cut part 2, but they were trying to recreate 1 and 2 in that nostalgia and continuing on the story, which is kind of what we do now with Halloween picking up after years later in 2018. We do that a lot, and this is what Warner Brothers was trying to do. We didn't get there, in my opinion.
No, I absolutely 100% agree with you. I think that's why I meant before the nostalgia being the blessing and the curse. It tries, but there's a reason why there is the Superman movies. I don't want to say dated is not the right word. It's a little bit older school, a little more camp at the time. It doesn't fit 2005, 2006 where it took place. It was more of a time and place where it wanted to be that, but it wasn't time enough to do that anymore. It makes sense. I give it an A for effort. It just didn't quite.
It's a great A for effort. There's wonderful. I'm looking at the chat. Wonderful moments for the movie.
Absolutely,
where you're like, this is a great Superman movie, and that opening where it's grabbing you by the nostalgia to do the opening of Superman 1 and 2, and that John Williams fanfare by John Ottman, who is recreating it and adding some new themes, is great. But we are right around the time Dean Morgan right now begins with 2005, Superman Returns 2006.
Right.
We were starting a new era in Warner Brothers with Batman Begins, and Nolan putting his name on, later on in Man of Steel, you know, it was a little bit different of the time. Than I think that Superman Returns came a little bit too late.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Although I will ask you this: what do you think if we had a chance to have a Superman Returns sequel with Brandon Routh and everything else? I almost think it would have been interesting to see if they could have taken that as a basis, the nostalgia they tried to do, and make it a little more their own. I think they could have had
We
that.
kind of got a sequel. It's called Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
what I've heard.
I think it could have worked, but I understand why they decided not to go that route.
Yeah, well, my whole thing is I think this film does contain one of the greatest Superman scenes of all time, which is when he's talking to Lois and he kind of picked her up and he's like, "What do you hear?" And she goes, "Nothing." He goes, "I hear everything." It's a perfect, just like, you imagine that, just like he hears everything,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
constantly. And not only that, that means he's hearing things that he can't stop.
Mhm.
He's hearing muggings and burglaries and all these things that he just can't
And
stop.
he has to choose.
And he has to choose and do all this.
Yeah.
I'll say this.
It's a beautiful moment.
It's a beautiful moment in a
Yeah.
film that is fine.
Yeah.
Superman Returns feels going from the Donner film to Superman Returns feels very much like watching like a professional Broadway play and then watching a high school version of that same play. You're like, I feel the heart there. I feel what you're trying to do, but
Right.
then you're just not going to be Broadway. But
Right.
you made a really nice attempt, guys. Yeah, I just rank it lower than Superman 3 just because Superman 3 at least has that entire, like I said, that storyline, whereas Returns, it just feels way too much like they were dipping into the well. They didn't establish themselves. And also, this movie makes Lois look like the dumbest Pulitzer Prize winner ever. Like, I get the kiss, but your kid launches a piano across the room, and the first thought in your head is not, all right, this kid is really Superman. And also, to quote Kevin Smith, when she does realize this, she does not remember sleeping with Clark. Why does she not confront Superman and say, "When did you rape me, man? Like, come on."
That whole thing was a
It's muddy, isn't it? It's like one of those things where you're like, did he? And then did she?
Also,
And then did they?
This poor movie just continues to make James Marsden the man that cannot keep a woman in any movie ever. Poor James Marsden, man.
James Marsden.
good point.
This was like 2 years after X2. He was
Yeah.
not doing well in comic book movies with women, was he?
Sure.
Poor
Right.
man. Poor man.
That's true. That's true.
I'm sorry. I'm having a bad day with the connection and the rooms. This is the last time. I'm back now. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good, man.
We're good. Okay, so Reggie, you said 5 as well. So we're good with that, I guess, at this point. Let's move on. Number 4. I think this is
Or should I do my 5 since you guys?
5? I'm
I
sorry.
haven't done my 5 yet.
You're right. I'm sorry. I was looking at
So my 5 is Justice League.
That's where you put Justice League.
That's where I put
Oh,
Justice
that's
League.
pretty high.
Yes.
It's higher than everybody else.
Good
Why
man.
high?
Oh yeah.
Very high.
Why did I forget?
It is high because, well, you have to watch Second Look on Take 3 Productions. No, not plugging
Boom.
here.
Nailed it.
No, yeah, I just plug away. It's my relation to those films, I think, is so different. You guys made a lot of great points. I think ultimately for me, it comes down to character depictions. And I think Affleck's Batman and Godot's Wonder Woman and Cavill's Superman and Momoa and all of them just work so well. And I always describe this movie to people as, to me, this is a Justice League Unlimited 2-parter. Like, to me, that's what it feels like. It feels like, yeah, is it the best movie ever? No, but it's just a fun movie that I just enjoy watching. I think when you get to the end of that movie, Superman is just like what I love. Like when he comes in, this guy's still bothering you. All right, I'll take the one on the left. You just see Flash moving the car, and he's just got the entire apartment place. And then that moment at the end to where Lois is doing the monologue and he's walking with the trench coat, that classic moment where he takes and he's going down the aisle. It's just, there's so many things that I love, and it's a movie that I just always enjoy every time I watch it, and
I will say
can't ask for more than that.
If we could have a full Snyder cut or a full Whedon cut, either way, it might have been better. At least it would have committed to one tone.
Mhm.
That was always a problem.
Yeah.
Half it was comedy, half it was this dark Snyder stuff, and it didn't match.
See, but the comedy worked for me, honestly. Like that scene with Aquaman, I think is great when he has the lasso. I don't want to die. There's so many things I haven't done yet, and they're just all sitting there. And then just the moment Flash tried to laugh at him, he's just like, "I will send every fish I know after you."
You haven't mentioned Ray Fisher yet. I thought he was great.
He was great too.
Yeah.
Like I said, like casting, I just think for me was spot on. Affleck he butts right up with Keaton as my favorite Batman, and he has that moment at the beginning with the guy. That's what I want. Your fear. And even the small stuff he has with Wonder Woman, I paid a lot of money for that security system. Yeah, it did look expensive.
Fair enough. All right, then we'll move then now to our number 4. My number 4. This is where I put BV at Batman vs Superman.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, that's my 4 as well.
Okay,
It's my number 3.
4 as well, man. Mark. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's my number 4 as well.
That's a hot take for everybody. Everybody seems to be shitting on it except for us. So I'm.
Oh yeah, guys, you didn't hear? The movie's bad. Ew.
Yeah, it's so bad I love it.
Yeah.
You all have it at number 4. That is that
No, I got it at number
he has
3.
it 3.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Jarvie just ruined the ranking there. All right.
That's what I do today. I bring mayhem everywhere I go. I destroy connections and microphones.
I love it.
Lists.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk Batman vs Superman. And we actually, Jarvie and I did an episode last week, which regarded Batman vs Superman versus Civil War, Captain America: Civil War. We are both big fans of Batman vs Superman.
Yes,
I think
yes, we are.
I love this movie.
And the Ultimate Edition, especially. I don't even watch the theatrical one anymore. Give me the Ultimate Edition every time.
Yeah.
It's a little longer.
Same.
It adds so much to it, so much depth. Now,
Paul, we were talking about this just to keep it with our rankings.
uh,
I felt like the theatrical was much more a Batman movie, whereas
yes.
the Ultimate Edition made it a Batman Superman movie because you got more of Clark doing the investigating, and with doing that, you get more of why he doesn't like Batman. Whereas in the theatrical, they kind of touch on it, but you get like the conversation with the landowner and all this stuff that just leads him to thinking about Batman the way he does.
Yeah.
And it's great. And I mean, you get Henry Cavill still being Superman. He's awesome. And the introduction of Ben Affleck, who's just, I mean, he has so many. One, he's just a badass from his first scene as Batman. Of course, the warehouse scene we could talk about. There's so many great small moments when he's Bruce Wayne. Like, I love when he's in Lex Luthor's house and he's trying to hook up the device and the assistant comes in. Oh, I thought this was bathroom. And just Ben Affleck has this great moment when she's walking around. He's like those shoes.
Like
and
those,
he just immediately drops it where he's just like, oh God, I have to do this. Or, where he's like been keeping his eye on Wonder Woman. So when she passes by, he's just like, pretty girl, bad habit, can't break it. Right. Do I own this one? I love the movie and I love the action sequences. I know. And look, guys, I'm going to be comic book nerd here to all of you. Batman doesn't kill. Yeah, Batman used to carry a gun in the comics and used to shoot people and toss them out of windows. I'm just saying.
Very true.
Sure, why not?
There's precedents for it, and it was badass.
The opening sequence, which ties into Man of Steel so well, gets to see Man of Steel from you have Bruce Wayne running into dangers that are running. It showcases so much.
I love that so much.
It's
one of those moments.
Oh, it's so good. It got me going.
Yeah.
Really pumped up right away. And then you get it with Superman. Has the moments where it have I love the sequence when I know it's more of a Batman sequence again. The vision where you see the Dark Superman with them all kneeling to him.
Oh, I love that so much.
That is such a great moment. This is what Snyder does best in this. It plays with the idea: is Superman a god or is Superman a man? And is he God? And it's not just him; it's how the people see him. And
Exactly.
Well, and that flows so perfectly off of Man of Steel. What that was Jonathan's thing was, it's just like, you know, you have a choice of what you can do. You can either stand proudly in front of the world or not. And Martha has the conversation with him as well, to where it's just like, you don't owe this world anything. You can be either God or none of it. And I think that's Superman movies don't, or Superman projects usually don't talk about that. It's usually just like, he's the hope, he's all this, and these movies kind of get to the, like, he doesn't have to be, like, he's
thank you. That's what was so interesting
and
about
that's why the kids are great,
version
because they
of
wouldn't raise
Superman.
their kid to have to be a hero. They would be like, look, you want to be a farmer? Be a farmer. You want to be a reporter? Be a reporter.
Right.
You want to be this hero? Do it. Like,
Right.
you have that choice.
The choice. It's interesting to play with a choice of being the most all-powerful being versus hiding with the rest.
right.
And that's what I thought Man of Steel was trying to do. That it's why BVS is a little bit higher for me, because I also enjoy the Batman elements of it and how it, you know, meets with the Superman mythology and what we know. Batman is doing what we would do in Batman v Superman if a Superman or powerful being like that. And I loved what they didn't stick the landing. We don't have to discuss whether they sucked the landing or not, but it was an interesting take that was so different from what Marvel was doing that I so appreciated it, that I wish that we got that, which is why I have Justice League so low on the list, because Warner Brothers abandoned that midway and went, let's make Marvel.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
why they brought Whedon in, which is why it's worse movie than Supergirl, Superman 3, and Superman 4, in my opinion, is that in the middle of this, you had a vision. And instead, you went 180 and went the other direction. And we got a movie that I could have, you know, it's fine.
And I'll say, I think this movie, I've always enjoyed Marvel since I was a kid, and the MCU and everything. But there is a speech that Bruce Wayne gives at the end of this movie that's pretty much the reason why I'm always going to love DC, which is when he's talking to Wonder Woman, and she's like, man made a world where staying together is possible. He's like, no, men are still good. We fight, we destroy, but we can rebuild. And it's just like, that's the thing about DC, is that, like, they show, and I'm talking about not just the DCU, all the comics and shows, they always show that, like, people can do bad things and terrible things and all of this.
Right.
But people are not born evil. It's all about your choice, and that at their core, there are these people who want to do these good things, and they will. And, you know, to quote from another DC film, people need dramatic examples to shake them out of empathy. And that's why I love Affleck's Batman and Cavill's Superman in this, because there's so much of that. Like, they can be evil, and they can be evil vigilantes or evil gods or something, but they're choosing to do good with their powers. And it's just, God, I love this movie.
If I can, Reilly, you said this feels like what will happen in a real world, and this is why I call BVS the most mature comic book movie ever. I feel like it's the most grown up. They have committee hearings. They have, which is like a Superman 4 reference. He's like in the Capitol,
I agree.
Hearing, and everything. It feels real. It feels dark. It takes itself super seriously. And I love that. I love that aspect. And also, there's a quick horror moment, which is really cool moment when Batman goes. He's dreaming and he goes to his parents' grave, and it like bursts through the tombstone there. I'm sure you appreciated that as a horror fan.
Yeah, I did a whole Riley's Camp Blood on the horror elements in superhero movies, and BVS was one of them. Not just that moment, but the beginning of Bruce's origin and the introduction of Batman, when we see him taking out one of the cops at the time, and how they reveal Batman. I mean, he's like Michael Myers in the shadows there. And I love that about it, which is why I love a big part of this movie that has everything to do with Superman, but also the pathos of Batman and what it is to be a superhero in that time, which we've all said it here, which is more mature. And I think what Marvel was doing. And I think why there's a huge contingent of people that are, there's a hashtag that says release the Snyder Cut, is because there is something there that I'm with you, that is a little bit more intangible to grab onto. We're looking at something that, and this is why I love Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. In regards to Superman, it's this question of like, seriously, would you? If this motherfucker showed up, would you?
Right.
That is a great question to ask, which I think is very introspective for a human culture to be like, yeah, if this motherfucker showed up right now wearing red and blue and yellow with a cape, and he's the most powerful person in the world, would you trust him? That, to me, in this time, is what Man of Steel and BVS, and why I do wish Zack Snyder finished Justice League, but Justice League was not that vision
at all.
Justice League was, let's copy Avengers and get some money right now. And we saw it happen. It's the lowest grossing of all the movies. So it's like, it's all about the vision. It's all about that story that you want to continue. Podcast for another time. Sorry.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
From what you just said, I kind of see where the TV show The Boys came from. It feels like a continuation of what would happen if we really had superheroes, like a really dark aspect.
I think The Boys is a really great example of what a movie or a series could look like after what the questions were asked about BVS, which is why I love The Boys so much.
Same here.
The corporations taking over superheroes, which I think Snyder was actually trying to. I think he's tapped into a lot of things, and I think that, you know, the release of Snyder Cut gets a really bad rap because I've had the wrath myself over Collider. Oh, I don't think it exists, and they all yell at me. But after a while, with the facts presented to you, but just with the creativity involved, you want to see that because you want to see what an artist does without any kind of studio interference, because Justice League, which is why it's the last on my list, is the example of studio interference. It is a movie that is so compromised by everybody but the artist. Joss Whedon, Zack Snyder, Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, they have nothing. It's Warner Brothers that said, change everything, do this. And we, the fans, lose out on the story set forth with the Batman v Superman and Man of Steel. I'm getting ahead of myself.
All right.
No, that's why we invited you on the show, to have your insights. So this is great. Great stuff.
I will say, Mark, you've convinced me. I've changed my ranking. I'm throwing Justice League at the bottom now because I agree with it now.
It's one of those movies that is just the epitome of Hollywood that we don't want as an artist, as a writer, as a director, as a producer, anything. It's that movie that shows us what can go horribly wrong. You have Zack Snyder, who is moving forward on his vision with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. And then in the middle of filming, Batman v Superman comes out and doesn't make $1 billion. And so they say, guess what? You're fired. And let's look at Marvel that made $1 billion with Avengers. Let's bring in the guy that did that for Marvel and change everything we set forward with 2 movies. And do it in a 180 direction. You wonder why that movie shit the bed. I mean, it's unfortunate, and it's why that thankfully we're here with Aquaman, and we're here with Shazam, and we're
Wonder Woman,
and Wonder Woman, because Batman v Superman, much like The Last Jedi, I would say, are amalgams.
Yeah,
they just happened, and we're so lucky to have them because the studio gets involved. Justice League and Rise of Skywalker, I think, are 2 very similar examples of what happens when a studio comes in and gets in the middle of a director's or a visionary. And what we have to now take as fans is what we're left with, and what we're doing every day now with our YouTube channels and our streams and everything.
Absolutely.
So, sorry. I mean, it's a little bit of a deeper conversation, but I love that we're talking about this because I think it's a bigger thing here.
That needed to be said, for sure.
Yeah.
I will. All right. I love that aspect of it. I will. One more thing I will throw in there. It's because it is Mother's Day. I will mention the moment. I actually loved the Martha moment. I don't care what anybody says. I'll die on that hill.
I'm right with you, Paul.
I'm with you on that. I think the Martha moment is something important.
It is because Batman.
If you strip it of all the of everything, you have two powerful beings that go. Your mother's name is Martha,
Right.
Mhm.
Perfect. Batman's motivation.
It sounds really dumb, and in the context of what we're talking about here, a lot of people are like, Martha.
Right.
It really was a cathartic moment for our heroes at that moment that I never really bought into the problem with it.
Batman had this whole motivation the whole time, set up from the beginning part where he did not trust Superman as an alien being, a hated alien being. That's all. He was not human. He was not even a person alive. This was
And he had good reason to.
And he had good reason. It's not exactly what we said before.
I'm with you, Batman.
Yeah,
I'm watching buildings crumble from a superpower being. But when you find out that his mother is named your mother,
wait,
you go, what?
You have a mother named Martha?
Right.
Like
that was Snyder's vision all along, which I respect and love.
Love that moment. I love that moment. I hear it all the time. I'm like, I don't care. I love that moment.
A lot of people didn't, and now we have Justice League. So you like Justice League? Is that what you wanted?
Exactly. AJ said it best too. I love MCU humor as well, but it doesn't fit where it shouldn't be. DC universe there. Right. Real quick before we move on.
Yeah.
AJ did have a super chat. I had to throw it on there. $10. A hot take. He says that Ralph made Superman seem more like an alien than any other actor. The "I hear everything" line was telling what he showed for the character's inhumanity. It's nuanced and unsettling.
I like that.
I do like that. That's an interesting thing to think about much. So
interesting.
Good one.
One quick why BVS is number 3 for me. It has one of the greatest Superman moments for me is when Clark is talking with Lois and they have the moment, "You are my world." That is such an emotionally charged moment. And I feel like it's one of the greatest Superman moments in all of the movies.
Yeah, man. I love that moment.
All right, then. We will move on to my number 3. This is actually an interesting point. This is where I put Superman 2, the Donner cut.
That's my 4.
Oh.
We switched these.
The Donner cut. Okay.
The reason why is I actually enjoy the Donner cut more than the Lester cut because of the Lester's humor. There are scenes in the Lester cut I like better. But overall, I actually put the Lester cut below BVS. But the Donner cut, though, I watched the Donner cut, and I got to watch the Donner cut knowing that you're only watching 70% of a movie. You got to forgive the ending, the repeat of the time travel thing, because that was the original ending was supposed to be, and then they had to take it for Superman 1. When they
Superman and Superman 2 were originally supposed to be a roadshow movie. They were actually being filmed at the same time. And not like Lord of the Rings. People have you believe it's like Lord of the Rings. No, they would shoot all the Daily Planet scenes for the first movie and then shoot all the Daily Planet scenes for the second movie.
Right.
But then the Salkinds and Donner had clashed heads, and so they dropped Donner off, and they brought Richard Lester in. And the problem was there was like only 20% of the movie left to be done. Right. And they pretty much, I think the Directors Guild or whatever was like, you have to film at least 70% of this movie to get directing credit, which is why he went in and redid a bunch of scenes. But that's my nerdiness about knowing way too much about Superman 2 and the two different cuts. Go back to your point, Paul.
I would just say he added the comedy bits that I didn't like. It was all the Superman 2 fight at the end where he has like the guy in the phone booth who falls over and the wheels start blowing, and he's still continuing the conversation. It just is also campy humor that I didn't like what that's all out of there. The freaking ripping the S off and the South Fortress is out the plastic.
Plastic. I have a question written down in my notes. What is this super plastic?
Where are they coming from? So
I'll tell you what it is.
Okay, go ahead. Please tell me.
Freaking works. It just works. It's fine. Don't worry.
I mean, it's not
here. We just
again to be a comic book nerd.
Throw it.
It's not out of the realm. They used to do this all the time in Superman comics, which it was like Batman's gadgets at the very beginning, which it was like they write a problem and it's just like, well, Superman just has this random power, but he's only going to use this one time to solve it, and we're just never going to speak about it again. This was all pre-Crisis Superman, so you could just get away with anything.
Talking about
That's my
Superman's
explanation.
powers, can I ask something that I when I was watching, I think it was in Superman 4, he does this blue thing with his eyes when he fixes or heals something. I only thought he had like laser, like heat vision, but in Superman 4, he actually heals something with his eyes, like repairs something. And it was blue stuff coming out of the eyes. Is that a power Superman has?
It's a power he had in Superman 4 for that one scene, and we're never going to talk about it again.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So let me just judges. Yeah, we'll accept it.
Okay.
It's not unlike we've seen it in movies. Ray just was able to heal a lot of people in Rise of Skywalker.
That was actually explained how she did it.
Yeah, it was explained, and now you're just going into the details of Superman 4 and kid. We don't know.
He's an alien. That's your
why he has that thing that he throws. And
right.
As a kid, though, somebody that was the preferred, I would say, person for this, when he threw that, I went, "Give it to me. Yes, I'll take all of it." So, does it make sense?
Does it have to? Doesn't have to, though.
No, it doesn't.
I agree with that. I mean, I love Superman 2 growing up for that reason. I did like
grew
the
up
Donner
with
cut.
it. Yeah.
But I did like the Donner cut a little bit better because I cut it out. Even though I'm making any kind of complaints about this, I still only ranked the lesser cut like one slot down because of it. Because it wasn't that. I still just prefer the Donner cut. But there's actually scenes in the lesser cut which I like better.
And that's when he finally shows up when he gets his powers back. Is that right? When he uses the music?
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in. You have the famous, General.
Yeah.
You're gonna step outside.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the John Williams music. That's probably that might be my favorite Superman moment of them all.
It was so powerful.
It's Superman 2.
Right.
General? Oh, it's so great. Yeah. Now,
you're gonna step outside.
Is it both in the Donner cut? Because I haven't seen it in a while.
That is not. They use an alternate take in the Donner cut, and that pisses me off. I think that was the one thing about the Donner cut I didn't like.
This is why I believe that the Donner cut is fine, but it shouldn't be considered in the canon of superhero movies.
It's a work print. It's ultimately what Superman 2 the Donner cut is it's a work print. They even say at the beginning that they're using test footage and all this.
Right.
It was not a completed film. I think
both versions are worth watching.
They're both worth watching.
Both versions are worth watching.
When I get to my ranking of Superman 2, I'll get more into a nerdy thing that I already told Paul about that I did in high school. But it's a work print. It's not. I'll save for when it's a work print ultimately.
I did like Marlon Brando in the Donner cut too, though. I like that continuity.
I do too. Yeah.
All right. So go ahead. I had it at 3. Where did you guys have it then?
I have Man of Steel at 3.
You have Man of Steel at 3. Okay.
Superman 2, the original cut, the Richard Lester, is number 3 for me.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Jerry.
And I had BVS at 3 and Superman 2 at 4.
Ooh, I like that.
I do like that. I like that as well. I can't argue with that. So okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
that may be Superman. If we can get it above, I'll take it. I think it's an underrated superhero movie.
Same here.
Seriously.
Agree. So let's see. I'm gonna say, Mark. You know what? I think let's because we punted a lot for you. Let's get your ranking. You had 9 was Justice League. What was your number 8?
My number 8 was Superman 4.
Okay, let me sure.
So my last is Justice League,
right?
Because it's really the worst movie probably ever made. Above Superman 4. Okay. My God. So Superman 4 is number 8.
Okay, and your number 7,
Supergirl.
That's where you did Supergirl. Okay, and then number 6 for you,
Superman 3.
Okay, and that makes sense. All right,
so
5 is the 4 is that. All right, so we're all.
Oh, it's crunching the numbers.
I am crunching numbers when I get that list done.
I love this. I would how long are we going? I'm going all night on this one. This is my shit right now.
I love it. I was going to
Like, I know I got nothing to do tomorrow except Reilly's Cantina, but I'm going all night. I don't know about you guys.
Must
We'll
be
do
nice.
everybody to do. I'm good to go too.
I got 8 hours of social media posting for restaurants to do, and
Yeah, guys, we got nothing to do
what's
tomorrow.
that?
It's
6 hours.
the pandemic. I got wine here, and I got a dog over here. So here we are.
I'm already at work.
You are
We're already at work.
I
I love that people are in the chat here. Keep going, guys. Come on.
All
drop
right.
it. Let's talk Superman right now. We're
All
getting hot right now.
We're doing it. We're doing it. And I'm going to go with my number 2. And
Ooh.
this is number 2 for me. And I vacillated back and forth. I only have 2 films left.
Mhm.
Is it gonna be Superman 1978 or Man of Steel?
Yeah,
Okay.
same for me, by the way. 2
I
options.
have number 2 is Superman 1978.
Oh,
And
okay. I'm okay with this, but let's talk.
I can't. There is nothing I can say bad about Superman 1978 at all. Nothing I can say about negative. Man of Steel went deeper into it for me. For everything you talked about with BVS, with the Clark Kent sequences, the young Clark, the Kevin Costner greatest dad in the universe,
Greatest movie dad ever.
greatest movie dad ever.
okay,
He's
well,
so
you
good.
said movie because
Yeah.
John Schneider would argue with you about being the greatest dad ever.
Josh, that's true for 2
He's
films.
the greatest
Smallville.
Jonathan Kent we ever had.
He was I could argue that. You could argue that.
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
But I love everything about Man of Steel. But I'll talk Superman 1 first.
Mhm.
Superman 1 was the first. I grew up watching Superman 2 before Superman 1. I didn't like Superman 1 as much when I was a kid.
Well, that's it for me. Thank you.
Only compared to 2.
Sorry. Let's keep talking.
It was just the final battle between the Zod and everything else. That's what got me to Superman 2 when I was a kid. When I
Right.
grew older, I found so much in Christopher Reeve's original performance. That's why right now, again, I rank Superman 1 over Superman 2 for that reason. Christopher Reeve is the perfect Superman for me, hands down.
He is.
It's the Clark Kent. We talked about it earlier with the Clark Kent, the glasses, and the physicality of it. You believe that Clark Kent and Superman are different people. You're like, I can actually believe that Lois can't tell a difference or only barely can tell what's going on. You have Gene Hackman, perfect villain role in DC Comics history. It's probably my favorite DC Comics villain. It's a little less menacing than you are nowadays. It's a little more humorful as the bumbling sidekick of Otis. But everything about it just works. I can't even. The only if you have anything negative, it's the time reversal thing at the end. It's a little bit of a
Which I actually liked a lot.
I don't mind it. It's a little bit of a Deus Ex Machina for me, but that's the only thing I have that's even slightly negative. The sequences in the train and the subway station, the kryptonite sequences. I have nothing bad to say about this film at all.
Oh, but I'll give you one moment. What about like Gene Hackman and Otis, right? They're trying to take the rockets and they're switching outfits and they're trying again and again and again.
I loved it. I totally loved it. I totally wanted it.
They do it twice. Okay?
Do they?
Not again
Because
and
it
again.
felt
They
like
have
they
the
do it
first
more.
one when they have Miss Tefmarker pretend to be passed out, and then when Otis screws up on that one, then they pretend to be the Cowboys. They do it twice. They don't do multiple costume changes, Jarvie. Okay? I know you probably watched this movie once, and then you went back and watched like Man of Steel 5,000 times in a row
Yes,
before
I
you
did.
got on here. But I'm just saying, don't be misleading the people in the comments. You're just false facts.
I'm going to have to go ahead and hang my hat on everything Matthew Kearns just said. Yeah,
Boom! There it is.
my hat
Yes.
Not
is
surprised.
right here. You got the SC approval here.
Not surprised.
I love that. Hell yeah.
So go ahead, Mark. Tell us all about your love for Superman 1. I'm assuming you put this at number 1.
Superman 1978 is the number 1. Correct. Yeah.
It's very fair.
It's my favorite superhero movie of all time. I think the idealistic nature of it, the reverence of the fact that Donner said vermilsitude. I can't even say it. The vermilsitude. He did that.
Richard will do it.
He has that saying, which is, and I can't even say it because it's just to teach everything or treat everything in the movie as a completely real thing in the movie, that I love so much about Superman 1978. It's the movie that I think everybody tries to emulate. I think it's the movie that has set the standard for what we had in X-Men 2000 and later on in Spider-Man 2001 and 2002, I should say. And like some of these Marvel, all these movies that
Chris Nolan said when he was making Batman Begins, the
Thank
movie
you.
he used as the template was Superman the movie because it's the only one that worked.
it's the movie that really, I believe, started it all.
Mhm.
And I know that where we're at in the superhero genre, and they will look at X-Men as being like, well, that started it, or maybe look at Raimi's Spider-Man, and then maybe they'll look at Nolan's Dark Knight. They'll look at the Avengers. They'll look at Iron Man 2006, all these movies. But Superman 1978 started it.
Yeah.
That is the movie that really showed you how to make a superhero movie. And at the end of 78, if we wanted to connect 1989's Batman, we could.
Mhm.
I think they could have. But we did that later. So I think
Right.
Superman 1978 is one of those movies that is just the movie that landed at the right time. It's, 2 years after Star Wars, 3 years after Jaws, the same year as Close Encounters, year after Close Encounters. We are at the height of blockbuster cinema, and Superman needs to be put up there with your Star Wars, Halloween, the same year, by the way.
Yeah.
All these movies, the Close Encounters,
Mhm.
Alien, these movies that redefined cinema. We now have Superman as being a superhero movie that is, it's 78. I can't believe that it's not something that is looked at like an Alien or a Star Wars or a
Mhm.
Jaws,
Thanks for saying
or
that.
a
That's my point.
Halloween.
Mhm.
That they look at it, it's like a tectonic shift in the narrative.
Yeah.
That was a movie that we have since emulated since 1978. It's amazing.
It is. It really is. Jarvie, I really am interested in your opinion now because it's your first time seeing it now.
Yep.
2020, you're seeing the 1978 Superman. What was your impressions and where do you land
I
on it now?
was blown away, and I was
Oh.
very skeptical. I was blown away. This was the first movie
yes.
I watched. It's my number 2. The effects people talk about Star Wars as the movie that broke ground, making new effects. I don't get why Superman the movie isn't talked about as the sort of revolutionary, groundbreaking movie, because the effects when we start off the intro on Krypton, when Zod, his henchmen are imprisoned, this thing that's going around them. Sort of, I don't know what's it called. It looked so cool. It still held up. I was so impressed. And Marlon Brando as Jor-El. Oh my god.
Yeah, he's one of the best.
Gravitas there, yeah. That's good.
I do have one big issue with, and this was the first time that the first movie that I watched, I couldn't get behind Margot Kidder's Lois Lane.
Really? Interesting.
Margot Kidder is Lois Lane. Okay.
Huh.
Well, Margot Kidder is the best Lois Lane
By
of
far.
all time.
By far.
I put her second, but
Really, she was annoying to me. She also felt kind of incompetent. She's like, how do you spell this? How you're a journalist? Spelling is what you learn at school.
Right, now, it's a good call. However, that is character. That is something that just takes us, that she doesn't know that at one point, rapist has 1 P.
That's right.
only one.
I love that. It
I did
sets
like
up.
that, but-
It's one of those things that feels real. It's that thing that feels real in the newsroom. where there is somebody there that has that little tiny indelible thing that she can't, the highest level of the Pulitzer Prize journalist can't spell.
That's
and I
funny.
love that little nuance in 78 Superman that has Lois Lane unable to spell is a most amazing character moment that makes her human, that puts her down on the level of us. That, oh, I don't know how to spell that either. It's one of those moments that I just absolutely love, which makes me so indelible, which makes it connected to me for 78 Superman.
Also,
It's funny
Jarvie,
you
you
say
realize
that.
in 1978 they were using typewriters, so autocorrect, spell check.
Yeah,
didn't
there's
exist.
no spell check. There's
So-
no
Even more, you
autocorrect.
should learn how to
Correct.
spell.
Also, that's what an editor's for.
Real quick, I gotta say, in addition to what you're talking about, Mark, I love the little moments between Perry White and like Jimmy Olsen. Like, give me a second. Don't call me Sugar. I mean, don't. Yeah, sure, Chief Sugar.
Don't get it. You got a sugar, Chief. Chief wants some sugar, and Jimmy Olsen then puts it off on somebody else to get his boss some coffee, which I love. That's another character moment that Jimmy Olsen is asked to bring coffee for Chief. And what does he do? What does Jimmy Olsen do? He gives it to somebody else. He says, Chief wants some coffee. He puts it on to somebody else. It's great. I love that.
My favorite parts. So, okay. So, Curdy, tell me about your story. What you told me about your story.
Yeah,
Go ahead, your story.
I guess quickly I'll give my thoughts on Man of Steel. I thought Man of Steel was a great reimagining of the character. It definitely felt like a newer Superman, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want it to be Superman Returns, to where I felt like it was back to the well. It established itself something different. I loved Henry Cavill's depiction of that character, Kevin Costner, Diane Lane.
Diane Lane,
incredible. Love Diane Lane. So Superman 2, I'll give my quick things on. When I was in high school, I told Paul this. I mapped out my complete version of Superman 2, mixing the best parts of the Lester and the Donner cuts, because that's what I did in high school. Because I was a nerd. Haven't done it yet. Haven't had the time, but one day I will take that little Word doc out again. I think Superman 2 is incredible. It's number 5 on my list of favorite comic book movies of all time. It's a great story to where Superman learns how important he is to the world, and that he's going to have to adjust his sense of a happy life, because he gets it with Lois, only to realize that if he keeps it, Zod's going to win. And it's great. One of my favorite Superman scenes is the diner scene, and Christopher Reeve plays it so well. The first time he sees blood, is so good. Of just like, I'm bleeding, and it's just like, and you have to imagine, like, he's never gone, but he's never seen blood. Like, imagine that. Like, we all can cut ourselves with paper and all this. Like, we all have had that as kids. Imagine he's in his late 20s in that movie. Imagine for all those years, you never felt pain. Like, it's an incredible movie. It's amazing. Terrence Stamp as Zod just will go down in history as one of the greatest depictions of a supervillain of all time.
He is.
Beautiful Zod. So now I'll get to the reason why Superman is my favorite superhero of all time, which is the 78 film. Because I was a Batman kid when I was younger. I was a Batman kid. I got introduced to comic books through cartoons, actually. Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, all those. That's how I got into. And then I went to Walmart one day with some pocket money, and they still sell these things where it's like Warner Brothers Classics, and it's like really shitty DVDs where it's 2 discs and, A side and B side. But I got, because Superman, I was like, oh, he's from Justice League. I like Justice League, and they didn't have a Batman one. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll get Superman. And over the course of 2 hours, 10 minutes, I think, maybe, that film, Christopher Reeves became my favorite. And
I love that.
And this is my thing, because I've talked about this on Take 3 before, and I've talked with some people there, like Kristen Smith and all this, because they do say these things to me. The movie's a little outdated and all this, and I'm just like, that's kind of the point. Superman is outdated because Superman is the guy who believes that people are good and fights for that. And even when you walk down an alley and you could get mugs, like, he still believes that people are good, and he wants to believe in that.
Yeah.
You know, he has the conversation with Lois to where it's, you know, I'm here to fight for truth, justice, and American way. You believe it, but it's really that stuff at the beginning with his dad. You know, to where he's like, you were sent here for a reason, and it's not to play football. And then, you know, all these powers, and I couldn't save him. And Christopher Reeves just instilled so much of that into me, that whole thing of caring about other people more than yourself, and the good in that, because you have Lex Luthor just cares about himself. He doesn't care about Miss Taskmaster. You see that when he's sending a bomb to where her mother lives, and he has no care in the world.
Thank you.
And you know, and talk about Miss Taskmaster with what I'm saying. He's drowning in the pool, and he's screaming out to Miss Taskmaster, who has been nothing but a villain. But he believes that she's going to help him, because that's who his character is. And then that, I saw this movie at such an impressionable age. I actually, funnily enough, I saw this movie around the time I saw the first Rocky, and both of them, sort of those characters, just instilled in me, like, being yourself and caring for others is such a vitally important thing. And this movie just will, it's number 7 on my list of favorite films of all time. It is, Christopher Reeves is my Superman. That depiction will always be my favorite. And I think when you get to the end of the movie, and he holds Lois's dead body in his arms.
Oh, yeah.
And he screams. That moment when he screams and he flies up, and you hear his fathers. You hear Jor-El, you hear Jonathan. The one father saying, you are not to meddle in human affairs, and you were sent here for a reason. And he listens to his father.
That is the moment.
And that's the moment when he chooses humanity, and that he's going to be the protector, and he's not going to be this observer like Jor-El would have been. He's going to be the protector. And it's so perfect, and it's so spot on, and that's what this movie is.
I'm getting chills.
I'm getting chills too.
I want to go watch 78 Superman now.
It's classic.
What the hell is going on right now?
You think it's outdated? It's supposed to be, because Superman is not
classic.
supposed to work in that world. He's supposed to be classic. He's supposed to be outdated, because
he's our
Superman
guy.
does not work in an Orwellian world. He doesn't, because then there's no need for him. You need that beacon of light that Christopher Reeves is in that world.
Correct.
I love that movie so much. Lex Luthor, Gene Hackman. Oh, just so many great. Otisburg. Oh, it's just a little itty bitty Otisburg.
Otisburg
just is so Lex Luthor, greatest criminal mind of our time. Do you know why the number 2000 is so vitally important? It's my IQ and your weight.
And your weight.
That movie is just, to me, it's perfect. There will never be another Superman film like that.
Listen to the composition of that movie with the music by Williams, and you will know exactly what that movie is. It is a Norman Rockwell painting when he is on Krypton. It is a sci-fi movie Norman Rockwell painting when he's on the Kent Farm.
Smallville.
It is a sci-fi movie with Krypton. It is a comic book movie when he arrives to Metropolis and does the events of the movie. It is one of the greatest film scores.
It's my favorite.
You put that to the movie itself, in the building of the hero's journey. It is one of the best.
I agree.
Highly recommend. Yeah.
I will add, going back to Man of Steel a little bit though, that Hans Zimmer's score.
Oh God.
Considering you're following John Williams, and he's still
he's doing something completely different.
I think the only problem I have with that score is the fact that they don't play all the Ideal Hope like they do in Trilogy. That's the only issue. You get a little snippet of it when he takes his first flight, but you don't get the whole thing like in Trilogy. That's my only thing. But I do like that score.
I feel bad for the poor sap of a composer that will be hired for the inevitable remake of a Superman movie over at Warner Brothers, because when you have Williams' indelible score followed by Hans Zimmer, which is doing something incredibly amazing.
Again.
I think Hans Zimmer's
Different from the
score is
original.
one of the best scores of all time. Man of Steel score is one of the greatest scores of all time, and is up there with 78's John Williams.
Right.
When you talk about that, how great it is that he was able to create something so different, but yet so indelible to the character. Yeah, I don't know who you're going to get. Who's going to do the next score? Because holy shit, you're in for a tough time right now, because that Hans Zimmer score, Man of Steel, is a beautiful arrangement, a beautiful composing, a beautiful movie.
You know who I would love to do a Superman score? David Arnold. I think he could do a really good Superman
David
score.
Arnold would be great.
I mean, if you
David
listen
Arnold
to
would be great.
Stargate Independence Day, he does a really good job of doing the throwback to the Williams and the Jerry Goldsmiths of the late 70s, early 80s sort of style of blockbuster filmmaking. I think he could kill it with Superman score. Personally.
I can read Paul's mind here. The only one who should read the score is John Williams himself.
That's true. John Williams himself. That's true.
John Williams, yeah. It's going to be hard. I mean, I think...
Let Ed Harris be the conductor.
Ed Harris.
Does the music? No.
Ed Harris can do anything. Ed Harris
can do
it. But yeah, so I get what you guys are saying completely, and to me, it's Superman versus Man of Steel, and it's one of those things to me that can flip back and forth. It depends what mood I'm in for. If I'm in the mood for a classic film that I grew up with, Superman is it. If I want the more updated version with Hans Zimmer, I go to Man of Steel. They're both. I can't argue against either one of them because they both have such beautiful tones to them. So they both have such beautiful different messages built for the times that they were built in, but still had that same heart of humanity. That's the greatest part about Superman. It's an alien being, and yet we're learning about humanity, and that's what I love about it. Humanity and hero versus evil. Purest example of good.
It's so great. Absolutely.
Well,
I will say Smallville season 9 and 10 are technically like my 1.5. If I could just stick those two seasons and pretend they're like 10-hour movies.
Okay. Fair enough.
Those last two seasons are amazing.
I'd have to go back and watch Smallville. I love watching all of Smallville. I want to go back and watch
telling you, those last two seasons, they were making Superman show. They just were not allowed to put him in the suit. But it's a Superman show.
Okay, are we ready to see our list? We have our compiled list. And,
Did we even talk about Man of Steel?
What was that?
We didn't really talk about Man of Steel, though.
We talked. I did.
Well, we didn't talk about Amy Adams as Lois Lane at all.
Throw it in there if you want to go.
Or did you when I was gone for a while?
No.
Because
ahead,
that's
I will
the biggest
talk
issue.
about Man of Steel all the time. How much time do you have? Because I love this movie.
The reason why I'm not a fan of Margot Kidder's Lois Lane is because of Amy Adams. That's what I had before.
Oh, okay.
That's the perfect Lois Lane, and she went up against Margot Kidder went up against her and just didn't work for me. So, but that's a tough hill to climb because truly Amy Adams, I feel like that's almost as good of recast as Henry Cavill as Superman. I feel like Amy Adams as Lois Lane is such a great character and such
good.
Amy Adams is a more along the lines of like the post-crisis The Man of Steel, which is the comics that came afterwards. That's her depiction of Clark and Lois, whereas Reeves and Kidder are more the pre-crisis, the more classic era versions of those characters. So, once again, Matt's a comic book nerd.
I'm going to be hiring Kearns to follow me up on every Schmodown appearance, which just give a little bit of something, little bit of color, like that. I like that.
I just stand in the corner, just like, yeah. So in issue number 37 of
Kearnsy, I need it.
Run.
I'll do it. That's what we need here. Yeah.
All right.
You guys are doing Skype matches now. It could work.
Let's hear the rankings.
All right, then. Let's get it on. We're going to see our final rankings.
Let's do it. All right, here we go.
Coming in at ninth place, I want to answer one more thing I do have to say is on Class Action, we like to try to find posters of movies, but we like to try to find alternative posters of movies.
So we don't get sued.
I
so we don't have a class action lawsuit.
I just like finding fun different paintings and stuff I can.
I'm a big fan of these posters.
Some of them work, some of them don't, but we'll see what we got. In ninth place, the worst Superman film that we have we have said it is Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Yeah,
man, that
I'd be
poster's
that.
better than
Makes
I'd be
sense.
for that. Yeah,
That makes
that
sense.
makes sense.
Makes sense to me, and I get
That makes
that. I'm
sense.
okay with
That was a good poster, though.
That
I
was
would
good.
take
Right?
that. I would
Good
hang that. I would hang that.
Got out. Here's one I didn't get a great poster of. It's more of a typical one. But number 8, thanks to Mark's convincing of me to drop it down a few slots, we got Justice League. As
Yeah.
number
That
Yeah,
pains
put
me.
it lower, would you? Jesus Christ, awful movie. Anyways, what were you saying?
number 7. Number 7.
Yeah, number 7.
This is where Supergirl.
Oh, that needs to be higher.
All right, that's fine.
I get it.
That's fine.
That's probably my fault. I'm sorry. I tanked it for you guys.
Supergirl was a good
What do
movie.
you mean? I had it at 9. I think you had higher than me, Paul.
I'd have at least an 8.
I
But
would
I
have
will
six.
say, I will throw it out there again. My placing of it so low is not. It's not a detriment to the movie. It's a great movie for what it is.
It's because you hate women, Paul.
Comparatively, is that
Obviously.
what it is?
It's like me with Last Jedi. Remember, guys?
That's right.
Last time I was here, Matt just hates women in lead roles. That's all it is.
That's all it was. Because we are all about that.
And this happy Supergirl is above Justice League, so carry on.
That works. That works.
Yeah, that works.
Number 6. Let me see if I can find it now. We have Superman 3.
Okay, all right. Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, that's about right.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Number 5, we have Superman Returns. Is
Yes.
number 5. Which is
I think
pretty
that's
much
fitting. That's fitting
That's
for
right.
it.
That's fine.
that's pretty much where we slotted, except for Kearns, who was a little bit lower. So we all had it at 5, except for Matt, who had it at 7. So that makes very much sense to me.
I like
Which
that.
means our number 4, Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Oh, wait. a minute.
That should be higher.
Oh boy. Yeah,
I
that should
do.
be higher. That
think
should be
it's-
higher.
It is there. I do love it, but it is where it-
King's Pork Cal. I'm 22, so I'm not a child. I'm a big boy. Also, it's Kearns, just
There you
for
go.
future reference.
Your friends. There you go.
Currency, if I could look like a child right now, I'd take it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mark, at this point. I could lose a couple of years myself.
Like a child any day.
Can I add a couple? I got ID'd at the movies not too long ago.
Good man. Good man.
You'll appreciate that when you're older. Let me tell you even more.
Yeah,
on that.
yeah, you will.
All right, number 3 is where I get Superman 2. That's where it kind of makes sense.
okay. I like
Okay,
that.
perfect. I'm okay with
Gotta
that.
line up with where I want to be. Okay.
That's where it makes sense. And this is the big one. We both all loved these movies.
I was gonna
So
say,
which
how is
one's
this gonna
first?
work?
Which one is it?
Don't do
Number
it.
2.
It should be.
I swear, I will leave this call.
It should be.
I will leave this call.
Is Man of Steel.
Oh,
Number 2.
No.
Number 2 is Man of Steel. By 1 point. Which means number 1,
Yep. I can stay on this stream.
Oh
Right now.
my God.
Superman 1978.
Right.
The greatest
About
Superman
how
film.
it worked out with my rankings. I'll
Yeah,
tell you
that's-
what.
It
Yeah.
is not too far off. That's pretty much it. So
I've never
where are
seen
we-
people in unison so much because everyone was pretty much agreeable throughout this whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't have too much arguments as far as things go. We had a few slots here and there, but overall,
Just wait till it hits the SEO and I share it on Twitter. And then we'll get ourselves some debate here.
we'll get some people yelling at us, and that's okay. I got big shoulders; I can carry it.
Justice League. No.
No. It is what it is. All right, guys. Well, that's where we will wrap it up. Thank you so much, everybody in the chat. Thanks for stopping by, hanging out with us, talking Superman. It was such a great honor to do that with some of my better friends in this space. Matt Kearns, where can we find you?
You guys, as always, can find me at Kearns_Matthew on Twitter, MattMovies611 on YouTube and WordPress, and over on Take 3 Productions is the main channel I work on. I host a show called Second Look, where I take a look at movies that I like that I think some people aren't super big fans of. This month's episode, which hopefully will be coming out soon, is going to be on Rocky 3. Yeah, go check that out.
That sounds cool, man. Good to hear it. Mark, where can the good people find you, Mark?
Oh, just fine. Go to Twitter. At Reilly around on Twitter. You can check out that and my Patreon page at Reilly Roundtable. What is it?
Reilly Roundtable.
Roundtable. That's
Reilly
fine.
Roundtable. Perfect.
Out there. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. This
Absolutely.
was so much fun.
Who do we have in the cantina tomorrow?
Cantina tomorrow is Mike Kalinowski.
Oh, good. Ooh, that's a good one.
Good get.
But yeah, 6 p.m. PST on my Reilly Cantina channel. We're going to talk about the Boba Fett. We're going to talk about the idea that Ahsoka and maybe Sabine and all these different people are going to be involved in Mandalorian. The rumors of a season with the Rebels doing a live action series. Check it out. Thank you guys.
Okay, Mark, I gotta say that I love having you on talking about Superman. I think I'm gonna have you back at some point because I gotta talk Star Wars with you at some point.
Oh, I'd love that.
We should do something.
Anytime.
All right, that's Richard Eric Jarvis. Where can I find you, buddy?
You can find me at Richard Eric Jarvie on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find me here weekly with Paul Newsy on Class Action on Action Industries.
That's true. We are actually considering that we usually do Class Action as a recorded show on Saturdays. We are thinking about going live every week because we kind of like the live feel of it. So we'll have to see how that goes.
And I'll fix my tech issues. I'm
They
sorry.
want to make sure I can be on this as little as possible. That's why they want to go live.
So they can't have Kearns. Yeah, I was like, nope, I'm done. But you can find me on Class Action. You can also find me on the Call to Action podcast, the movie trivia Schmodown show. I do Chilled Action, where we interview all the Schmodown competitors. And tomorrow night at 10:15 Eastern, 11:15 Eastern Standard Time, we're interviewing Ace Cabrera. You know how that goes.
Yeah, Ace Cabrera.
Doing Ace Cabrera.
Hell yeah. My boy.
And last time you can find me, I started my own YouTube channel called PLD Projects. Right now I'm doing a weekly show recapping the old 1980s TV show V, which is one of my favorite sci-fi franchises of all time. And I got other more content coming out. I will be doing the Harris dance, going through all of Ed Harris's filled roles, and that should be a little fun for me as well. So
Milk Money's going to be on there?
Milk Money's on. I'm going through them all. So I'm going to rank them
God.
all. Every single last one of them. So
we all know that's the best Ed Harris film all time.
I will say patreon.com/Team Action is the Action Industries channel, home of Ben Bateman and Andrew Guy. I thank them. We thank them, of course, for giving us this little spot on their channel. Join up. Great stuff coming on with them soon as well.
They're a bunch of assholes, guys.
They are a bunch of assholes.
Just
We
saying.
know. So are we, though, and so we all fit in very well. So that's all good. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Love you guys all. We salute you. Take care.